Today I'm going to try fly casting with a broomstick instead of my fly rod. Why, you may ask? Because I see so many people when they're casting, they might as well be using this broomstick because they're not using the fly rod to their full advantage. Stick around, I'm going to explain exactly how that happens. I'm Chris Myers, Orlando Fly Casting Lessons. I've been teaching fly casting here in Central Florida for over 15 years. I'm also a full-time saltwater fly fishing guide, and I see so many people struggle with their loops, and watching them, especially in slow motion, I see that what they are doing is using their fly rod like a broomstick most of the cast. Broomsticks don't bend. If our fly rod is moving back and forth during that stroke and it's not bending, we might as well be casting with this stick. So let's see just how effective it is to cast with a stick. So a lot of fly casting is simply us pulling line in a direction we want it to go, giving it enough speed, and sending it on its way. So I fastened a little eye up here to the top of this stick, and I got a fly line on here, and I'm gonna have to use two hands so it doesn't fly out of my hand, but here's my starting angle. Here's 10 o'clock, here's 2 o'clock. We all know about the 10 to 2, don't we? That's the best way to cast for sure. See my video on why you shouldn't cast 10 to 2 or think about it that way, but let's just say here's my 10 and 2. Here's my 2, I'm gonna go up to 10 and make myself a cast. I'm gonna come back to 2, 10, 2, 10. And look what I have, I'm moving fly line. Ugh. That took a lot of struggle to get that to go out. Let's see if I can do it as light as I would fly cast. This is the amount of effort I put into my fly cast. It's going absolutely nowhere. Why is this happening? Why is it so difficult with this broomstick? Because the broomstick does not bend. So first and foremost, this broomstick, as I'm going back and forth from A to B, is not bending and storing energy, which will help give my line some speed. It doesn't give it all the speed, but it helps give my line some speed. But that fly rod bends and follows a straight line path. I'm gonna show you a little clip here using by permission from my friend Graham Hurd in Australia. He did this video showing exactly what happens to the tip of your fly rod if you've never seen it before. So let's look at that briefly before we continue.
It's the distance between the tip and the butt of the rod, which is also called the chord length. To maintain a straight line tip path, a long chord length requires a narrow casting arc. Casting further or faster bends the rod more. When we bend the rod more, we shorten the chord length. When we shorten the chord length, we need to widen the casting arc. When we cast with a casting arc that's too narrow for the amount of bend that we're putting in the rod, we end up with a concave tip path like this. That will produce tailing loops every time. If we have a casting arc that's too wide, get a concave tip path like this. Wide casting arc, same chord length, gives us a domed tip path. That produces wide loops. There is the casting arc that's just right for every bend to the rod. That'll produce a straight line tip path, and that gives us nice efficient casts with narrow loops.
Now that you've seen that, you understand how this fly rod cannot bend and follow that same path. If I'm using a real fly rod, what bends this rod is two things. A tight line pulling on it. When I'm pulling the weight of this fly line, it bends the rod. As I pull the rod and accelerate and go faster, it puts more and more bend, just like in that graphic that we just showed from Graham. The farther you pull it, the more it bends the rod. You stop, rotate and stop, and that tip unflexes. It gives it a little burst of speed. If just bending the rod was the only thing we needed, we could be able to take this and shoot it out and make a full cast, but we can't, because it isn't just the tip, but that tip and the bend in the rod is super important to give it the amount of speed that it needs and to keep it on the straight line. two things that you're missing. If your back cast has slack like this, there's a big dip in your line. If you watched yourself on slow motion, one of two things happens. Either you come forward a long way with no bend, no bend, no bend, the line gets tight, then you will have to apply a whole bunch of bend right away because you're almost out of stroke length, and you're probably going to end up going down here. So that looks like this. There's no bend, no bend, no bend, whole bunch of bend, and you stop there. Or you're afraid it's going to hit back there, so you got start, full bend right away, and then you end up getting a tangle or a problem up here in the front as well. If we're bending it too much right away or bending it not enough for most of the stroke, we're never going to get that result that looks like this cast, what unrolls off our tip effortlessly, flies out a super long way with very little effort. If you're wasting stroke by having a slack line, part of that stroke, you're using this broomstick. And we saw what that did. So then you're trying to put your fly rod cast into a little tiny box about this big, or you're trying to jam on all the power right here in this little tiny box, instead of that big, long, smooth application of power, whether I'm casting with a 3-weight, 7-weight, 10-weight, it doesn't matter. Here's my little bitty 3-weight cast. Nice, gentle power. But if my 3-weight cast is doing this, now I'm having to slam the tip down because I've got so much sag in there I have to pull out of it. Sag equals broomstick casting. If you get the sag out of your cast, you won't be casting with a broomstick. It'll become so much easier for you to do. So throw away those broomsticks, start casting with a bent rod. Come and see me for a one-on-one casting tune-up if you're going to be visiting Central Florida. I also offer video casting analysis, and I got lots more YouTube instructional videos just like this one right here.